Welcome to episode 40 of The Leap Home. Rebel without a clue.
In this week's episode, Sam's got to save a young woman from getting raped and killed by her man, who rides with a motorcycle gang. Sam's up against the guy's culture and the girl's nurture and her love for the road, but he's got a plan with a man who can convince her to leave her love behind. But will his plan glide, or is the thrill of the ride too much for her to resist?
I used to love to ride girls on the back of that thing. Those were the days and nights.
Good evening, Ian. How are things?
Not too bad, Gerry. How are you?
Riding away.
On the back of your bike?
It's quite hard to do, especially when it's only a 50cc.
It reminds me of that guy on This Morning who said if my granddad wheels should be a bike.
That's insulting.
I should have thought that. My introduction there was converted into the style of Jack Kerouac by artificial intelligence.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
Future is here.
Yeah, I thought it was something different. It was a bit longer as well, I thought, than usual. Yeah. Soon we'll be able to just, the whole podcast.
Yeah, they'll just do our voices for us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very convenient.
It'll be easy.
But who's responsible then?
Oh, the machine.
That's it.
This episode was weird in the sense that I'm not sure its tone was even inconsistent. At the start and at some points there's a sort of jocular, fun, lightweight side to it, but it's obviously there are sections of it which are very dark.
Very dark, yeah. And a girl that Sam wasn't crawling all over for once. Maybe a bit too young or alive for him.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop him from having a few moments, which we'll probably get to in this episode.
I'm sure we will. Before we do that, you want to do the socials?
Yeah, let's rattle them off. So we are at Leap Home Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to chat with us there. We're at The Leap Home on Facebook. If you go to theleaphome.com, there's show notes for every episode. And if you want to hear next week's episode already, you can go to Columbo Podcast Productions, where each episode is released 1 week sooner than it is on the podcast feed.
Massive Dong, Snapchat?
Nah, not doing any of those things.
Right.
I think everyone gave up on Mastodon really quickly, didn't they?
Did they?
Folks should still review us in places like Apple Podcasts and IMDb.
That'd be good, yeah.
Yeah. Right, ready for some Quantum Leap?
Let's crack on.
The tag was just the same as we saw at the end of last week. Sam wipes out after losing control of his motorbike immediately after looping in, which is probably fair enough.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to be grabbing hold of a bike.
In fact, that'd be quite terrifying, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Suddenly you're on the bike and you don't know how to run it and you don't know where you're going or what's happening.
I didn't think of that when I was watching it, but that would be the type of thing we'd have in nightmares. You know, it would only be worse if you were naked.
Yeah, or if you were about to do something really dangerous, you had to do exactly the right thing, and it's like, oh, hang on.
So we see him swerve around, and his lack of driving ability irritates and amuses his fellow gang riders before, as you say, he skids off onto the dirt, and we have an oh boy.
We do. And we get the credits, and then we're back on the road, or this sort of lay-by area. It's September the 1st, 1958.
And we see a Brando light leader of the gang. I think his name's Dylan.
It is.
With a blonde pillion passenger. And what's her name?
Becky.
They pull up with the good hair. Yeah, they pull up with the others and they laugh as he tells Sam, known as Funny Bones.
Yeah, funny, because he's the class clown, as it were.
Yeah. That he thought that was a crazy stunt. So he thinks that all of a sudden he's just messing around.
Yeah, this Mad Dog guy's unhinged for the entire episode.
No, this is the leader. This is Dylan's talking just now.
So right after that, this Mad Dog guy, who's completely unhinged for the whole episode, approaches Sam and thumps him.
I can understand why.
Well, he thought he was messing him around and almost took him out as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. If you're at the front of the pack or wherever and you're not affected, it's just amusing if Sam goes, falls off. But if you're swerving around at speed and you think it's for a joke and you're about to come off and, you could kill me. Yeah. You'd be raging.
He then scoffs as if you've never rode a bike before, and for some reason Sam says no. What's he doing?
Just the usual. Cannot for 1 second consider the body, the person that he...
the circumstances and everything else.
Uh-huh.
You could at least, laugh it off for a moment and gather your senses.
Mad Dog is mad and has to be called off by Dylan, who tells him that Becky wants Sam to have a free pass this time.
Mad Dog asks Dylan if she's the boss, and he says no, he is, but on this occasion that's what's going to be happening.
Yeah, I think his tone changes. Dylan is having a laugh at first, but when his leadership's questioned, he gets a bit more serious.
So Becky runs over to check on Sam, but Mad Dog cuts the fuel line on his bike. It's completely excessive.
It is.
But Dylan finds this perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, well. And we find
out... to be fair, first of all, he says it's a poor way to welcome him to the group.
Yeah, we find out he's only been with the gang for a week, I think.
But then Dylan says he's a big boy, and they'll see him 20 minutes down the road at this diner that they're headed for.
And as Mad Dog passes, he pulls a flick knife.
Yes, and he tells Sam he's going to get jacked, which apparently means stabbed.
Yeah, if he messes with him again. So, now on his own, Sam considers that he has assumed many characters in his leaps, but this was his first as a dirtball.
What do you mean by that?
Someone who is a bit scummy, a bit dirty and unclean. He's a dirtball, a biker would be classed as
just any biker would qualify.
You can imagine Sledgehammer, your scuzz bucket, scumbag, a dirtball, that type of thing.
I don't think Sam's impressed with his looks either. You always find that when he's not a particularly handsome person, he's very unhappy about it.
And again, I've said this before, I can understand that. You go, oh, really? That's what I've been given? Okay. Yeah, and he's a little weirdo.
Al shows up and makes the point that he's not Brando, but he does look like a wild one.
Okay. Sam then states the obvious about who he is, but Al is more interested in his classic machine and admits that his first car was a bike.
It was a 48 Harley Knucklehead, which Sam asks whether it was named after him.
Yeah, and he used to ride girls on the back of it, as we heard at the top of the podcast, although he does contradict.
He said there's one thing that's impossible to do on a bike.
Yep, it's not impossible. I've
juggling.
Seen videos. At this point, Al sees Sam pull out a caricature drawing of Becky. I don't know why he had that, which impresses him and thinks that it shows her as someone who is free, and then proceeds to tell Sam what he knows so far.
Shane Funnybone Thomas, that's your name. It's September 1st, 1958, and you're somewhere about an hour south of Big Sur, California. And according to Ziggy, you're the new kid on the block. You joined the Cobras a week ago, and your M.O. is gang. Clown. Gang clown. Okay, gang clown. That's kind of funny.
Al, I don't know how to ride this bike. I don't have a clue. I just wrecked it in front of everybody.
Well, there's nothing to it. Your rear brake is with your foot over there. Here's your front brake throttle. There's your clutch over there. There's your gear shift. 1 down, 3 up. Neutral's between 1 and 2. You kick-starter with this thing right here. Only when it's a neutral. And get it washed.
Al, I can't be a biker.
Where's your sense of adventure? Don't you know what it feels like?
Yeah, like playing slip and slide on asphalt. I mean, look at my leg.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the way it feels when the sun blasts into your skin if you got sunscreen on, and the wind waves by your face, and you sail off into the blue on your chrome-plated, candy-colored, flaming red dream machine. You never know what's around the next corner.
Probably a head-on with a semi.
That pushes what we saw go past.
Where do we head?
To the diner. We see Sam walking up. Obviously, he's walked the whole way.
Whose diner?
Ernie.
The gang are in a boisterous mood as Jailhouse Rock plays on the radio, and the harassed owner tries to keep control.
Becky's reading something. I think maybe something she wrote herself.
I'm not sure if she's reading and writing from 2 different books, but yeah. She's at the counter when Sam enters and is grabbed by a big guy, Sam that is, and the others cheer as he's forced to down a pitcher of beer.
Which he manages okay.
He does, yeah.
Dylan, at this point, asks Becky to read him the story that she's writing, but he doesn't really understand it and tries to change some of the words.
Well, in fairness, she recites some of her appalling, pretentious nonsense. It is really just...
It's nonsense, but his interpretation of it is even more ridiculous. He says, just say what you mean. You're not going to get very far as a writer if you just say literally what you mean all the time.
But here's the thing again, Sam's showing himself up. He can't keep quiet and stay in character.
You could just sit in the corner. It would be perfectly fine.
He feels obliged to defend her and explains that what she has written is a metaphor. Just be quiet.
Yeah. Literally no reason to intervene. He doesn't even know what he's here for.
No, and she's not. This isn't any particular danger she's in. She's just chat at a counter, and he's trying to show off at me.
Yeah, it's explained that a metaphor is when words don't mean literally what they say, which allows Dylan to talk about his time in Korea during the war.
Yeah, he draws a parallel to how they were treated in Korea. Do you like that play on words?
Yeah, very well done.
Mm-hmm. Before he stalks off to look moodily through the window.
At this point, Mad Dog approaches Sam, but meanwhile, Ernie heads over to speak to Dylan.
Yeah, Ernie wants to chat about his own son, who was a Marine, and he describes some heroic incident that he was involved in and says that he's expecting a congressional medal when he returns. However, what does Dylan point out?
Well, the war ended 5 years earlier.
And I think it's clear, obviously, that Ernie has been unable to come to terms with the reality of the situation, as he then goes on to mention a bike that he has waiting for him.
He's keeping it, yes, in pristine condition for his son. Dylan's interested in buying the bike, which leads to Mad Dog mouthing off about the son obviously being either dead or a commie turncoat.
See, this is the thing. It's all very well being this gang, but what we see later on as well is quite horrific, how they treat Ernie.
I mean, they're slipping in the racial epithets as they go along here as well.
But it's almost like a sort of caricature, isn't it, of this biker gang. I mean, the reality
you've got
is
one guy who does, you've got the leader, and then you've got the loose cannon, and then you've got the backup.
Mm-hmm.
Even Sam is told that he's the clown, so he's got a role in this gang.
Sam, again, feels the need to defend the stranger by assuring the others that he's not a commie. And so the childish Mad Dog tells Ernie that his son is definitely dead.
Dylan steps in at this point as well to shut him down.
Yeah, even Dylan thinks, listen, there's no need for this.
Yeah. But the irritated Mad Dog then grabs the caricature of Becky that Sam's holding. I don't know why he's got it out.
Why does he get this out?
He's such a strange man.
He's a strange man with no idea like how to act, what's appropriate behaviour.
What does he think's going to happen with this?
Keep yourself out of trouble. There's a leader of the gang sitting beside what looks like to be his girl.
Yeah.
For some reason, I've got a picture that I have drawn off her. I'll wave this about. Who would be offended by someone keeping pictures of your girlfriend in your pocket?
Yeah. Mad Dog turns out to be a bit of a grass because he takes it straight to Dylan.
Yeah. Really hates Sam, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, he talks about the picture of his old lady.
But Dylan doesn't react the way that Mad Dog maybe expects him to.
No, much to his annoyance, he compliments him on the work and walks away. And so Mad Dog orders Sam to do one of him.
Yes, which obviously Sam's not able to do, so I think we get a sketch of a dog's face.
Yeah, Mad Dog grabs him and they have to be pulled apart as Al reappears. And Ernie gives Sam a towel to go and get cleaned up in the kitchen, obviously trying to diffuse the situation, keep them apart.
He does. And Al disappears to reappear in the kitchen where Sam is alone now.
Yeah, he's not in a great mood and just wants to know why he is there. And so Al puts it sincerely and simply.
Al tells him he's there to prevent a murder. We've seen this before. He's been in this sort of scenario previously.
Yeah, now Sam at this point looks out at the gang in the dining area and assumes, I don't know why, that it's Becky, which Al confirms and reveals that she'll be stabbed 30 miles north of where they are within 24 hours. Why would Sam assume that it's Becky that's going to be murdered?
Because she's the most vulnerable, I guess.
I'm not sure she is. It tends to be in these situations that, I mean, gang members fight each other and fight other people. They don't necessarily go about stabbing their own.
It could be Dylan gets killed by Mad Dog for all we know up to this point.
Exactly, yeah. Anyway, Sam walks back through to the diner.
He's all cleaned up now.
And he finds Becky helping serve their food, with the gang giving lip to Ernie.
Yes, he joins in with the serving, taking a couple of burgers over to one of the guys, who takes them both. And then
Ernie confides in Sam that his buddies are a pain. That's a risky move. Ernie doesn't know...
Yeah, how Sam feels about it, yeah. Ernie doesn't know anything, so he's obviously just taking a gamble based on the fact that Sam's helped out, I suppose, and what happened earlier.
Yeah, Sam actually says, we're not buddies.
Yeah. So Becky at this point is fed up. She goes outside for a walk.
Yeah, I think she overhears Mad Dog and Dylan talking about stealing Ernie's son's bike.
And she doesn't approve of that at all.
No. And at this point, Mad Dog notices Sam following her. But Dylan is, again, quite relaxed about it. He's unconcerned and he says that if he can get her, he can have her. It was quite nice of him.
Oh, you know what Sam looks like, so...
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? You wouldn't feel...
It's like, we've had this in the past, he's just too ugly to get the girl.
Yeah. So we find him on the beach. He catches up with her, and alone for the first time, he is able to find out more about who she is and what is driving her.
Oh, I never realized how beautiful the ocean is.
You've never seen the ocean?
Well, there isn't much beachfront in Wichita.
So Dylan came around and saved you from a boring life in Nowheresville, huh?
Something like that.
How about your folks?
Well, my mom took the easy way out. She died when I was 7.
Your dad?
My dad died too. He just never sobered up long enough to realize it.
Becky.
Hey, I got out. I'm riding with Dylan. Now I'm as free as he is.
I'm not sure that you can call being with Dylan free.
Jack Kerouac would. I'm on the road like Kerouac was. Living life, seeing what's out there.
I don't think that means you have to follow Dylan.
Don't you see? Dylan's one of the mad ones. He's living life on the edge.
He's just gonna take you down with him.
How do you know?
Because I've known types like Dylan before. Becky, you gotta get away from him.
What is Sam's problem with Dylan at this point?
Yeah, up until this moment, Dylan's actually been pretty decent. So he stopped him getting beat up a few times. He had no issue with the drawing, and he also says that if Sam and Becky want to get together, then that's fine.
He stood up for Ernie as well when Mad Dog was having a go at him.
So at this point, Dylan has been, he actually said, a nice guy.
There's no reason to assume that he'll be the murderer or cause Becky to be harmed.
No, what I would say is that Mad Dog would be the prime suspect.
I would have thought so, the guy with the knife.
But he hangs about with Dylan, and she's following Dylan.
Yeah, but this is a really difficult way to persuade her. Oh, this guy who's done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You need to break up with him and leave him because it's going to cause you harm. Well, why would she buy that?
No.
She's got no reason to think that's the case.
No.
And she's certainly got no reason to take Sam's word for anything over a guy that she's been spending more time with.
I agree. In any case, at this point, Dylan rides over with the gang in tow, and when Becky runs over to him, Sam tells her not to go.
Oh, this is ridiculous. Sam, I could barely watch this scene for cringing. First of all, he tells her not to go out loud in front of everybody else. Then, bizarrely, tells Dylan that she's my girl now. And he's put on a voice, so he's kind of overacting it as if he doesn't really think that. But
but he's deliberately, he knows that this looks bad, so now he's trying to make it a joke.
But he just sounds like an idiot.
He does sound like, well, he's an idiot. Mad Dog doesn't like this anyway, and starts to edge him over using his bike, the cliffside.
To the cliff edge, yeah.
Until Becky agrees to go with Dylan, who calls off his sidekick before they ride off, leaving Sam alone again.
Bit of time passes and we see him in Ernie's garage, or garage, I suppose.
Yeah, Ernie advises Sam to go after Becky as they enter the place, where I think he's going to help repair the...
He says he's got a spare fuel line.
Yeah.
So, and also he shows him his son's bike. It's in there. It's under a blanket.
Magnificent looking machine.
It is. A bit of time passes.
Yeah, and while they work, Ernie notes that Sam's not like the others and admits that he doesn't trust him.
The two of them both agree on that. Neither of them trust the other guys.
And he then gets quite emotional.
Yeah, I thought this was quite sad.
Why? What did they discuss?
So Ernie says it just doesn't seem fair that guys like this come back from the Korean War and his son's missing.
Yeah, I think Sam struggles to...
Yeah, he can't explain it to him at all, but Ernie's clearly very emotional about it. He says he doesn't wish any harm on them.
He just preferred they were dead and not his son.
Yeah. If I had to choose.
Yeah, he does wish harm, doesn't he?
It feels unjust to him, I think.
You can understand
from his
that.
perspective.
Yeah. However, when he asks him if he himself has ever lost someone, what does Sam say?
He gives a really flippant response. Oh yeah, but I got them back.
Yeah, I did lose someone.
I went back in time and saved them, so it's fine. I'd do that for your son, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, Ernie then proceeds to take out a news clipping telling of some prisoners of war who stayed on in Korea.
Yeah, they were repatriated later than the end of the war.
Yeah, they came back after people assumed they had been dead.
But Al shows up at this point.
Yeah, and Sam doesn't look convinced. Al, I think he confirms there were such cases, however.
Yes, however, Daryl is not one of them.
No.
Daryl being Ernie's son.
Yeah, he was missing in action, and unfortunately, his remains were returned 2 years later, which caused Ernie who died just a few months after that.
That's almost unbearable. So sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, yeah.
Outside, Sam wonders whether he should have said something.
No, he says, he asked Al, should I have told Ernie the truth? What are you talking about?
For start, why
I'm a
would he
time
believe
traveller.
you?
I'm a time traveller.
Yeah, and your son's dead, and his remains will return in 2 years.
That would be, I mean, what does he think that, what response does he think that Ernie could
But
give
he
that would be?
always seems to think that he can persuade folk who he really is.
Do you know much about quantum physics, Ernie?
Here's the thing. I'm not really here. I'm actually on a farm right now. I'm only 12.
Oh, he's an idiot.
Anyhow, Sam is now heading up to this. Is it Carrillo, yeah. Where Becky gets murdered, apparently, according to Al.
That wasn't mentioned, the way they were going. Who heard this?
I don't know. Maybe it was mentioned off screen. Oh no, Al says that's where they are. Oh no, I'm talking crap. Sam says that's where they're going, and Al says that's where the murder happens.
Yeah, but that was never
Sam
said.
must have heard it.
How did Sam hear it? Because last we saw, it was the whole thing on the beach when she just left
maybe
with
it was
him.
already, that was the plan already.
Really?
I mean, the diner can't have been the end of the road. They can't have been planning to stop at the diner, and that's as far as we've got.
Okay. So we find ourselves at the beach in, I'd assume, Korea, yeah? Carrillo?
How would you spell that?
It's Carillo, Carrillo.
Carrillo. Okay. So not Korea.
No.
Because that would be really far on the bike.
Yeah.
Becky is upset here because Dylan is still planning to steal Daryl's bike.
Yeah, she's protesting that they can't take it. They don't know, even if he was dead and they were just, I think they said, well, it's just sitting there rusting away. She says, well,
waiting for a ghost.
Yeah, we don't, but she says we don't know if he's dead or not. That's not been proven. Which angers the drinking Dylan. And he shouts that he was over there and he knows what it was like. And I think he then tries to calm things down by claiming he just doesn't want to see it go to waste.
Yeah, but then he gets a bit amorous with her.
And she thumps him and tries to leave. But this is the point where things suddenly get very dark indeed.
Yeah, well, first of all, he is inclined to let her go. He's hurting her, she says. So he lets her go, and Mad Dog says that she's turned him to mush.
So he grabs her and is about to rape her.
And the others are all cheering him on.
Yep. You can't beat a good bit of
communal
or
rape watching.
So, dear me.
This is grim stuff.
So he slaps her to the ground.
Yep. And then moments later we see him mounting her.
Yeah, we fade back in to him rolling all over Becky. But she manages to give him a little dig to the guts and wind him. And just then Sam appears on his bike.
Fortuitous.
Very, yes.
She jumps on the back of the bike and they ride off, leaving Dylan sprawling on the ground, and then carnage as everyone tries to chase them at the same time.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying, this juxtaposition of comedy and darkness. So we went from a horrific potential rape scene to a bit of slapstick where they're falling over each other. And
yeah. So these guys are really grim, but they fell over. Yeah. No, it's dark. Dylan says they're both dead. So obviously that is ominous for our guys.
You stop me raping someone. Oh, I can't let that.
My pride is hurt. Back at the diner, we see the guys arrive, but Ernie comes out with his shotgun.
Yes.
And accuses them of stealing the bike.
And tells them that the sheriff is on his way.
Dylan says he's innocent of this crime, but Ernie says, you sent the skinny one to take it, which they assume is Sam.
And I think Dylan says, we want him as much as you do. But Ernie laughs at this.
He tells them that they're headed south and they'll be halfway to the border already, but Dylan says that they will get him and they'll bring the bike back. And they all ride off.
Of course, when they've gone, we see that Ernie was in fact covering for Sam and Becky, and he lets them know that the gang are off and they're heading south.
So Sam and Becky should head north, but she won't go.
No, she's a change of mind.
Dylan's just drunk. He'll be fine in the morning.
Yeah, come on. A little bit of public rape in front of his friends. I mean, that'll never happen again.
He didn't really mean it.
It's only because he was drinking, and it's well known that these bikers rarely drink.
So Ernie says she can stay in the flat above his garage and maybe she'll wake up with some sense. But he doubts it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So we find ourselves in this room.
It's obviously been Dylan's room.
Yeah, after looking at a photo of Ernie and his son, Sam notices a closet full of wrapped presents.
This is so sad. This whole episode's sad.
Well, it's sad, but also Sam is just terrible here.
He opens stuff.
He starts reading these very personal... He knows what they are.
It's
we
quite obvious.
know what they are, yes.
A stack of birthday and Christmas presents and cards.
He's like ripping them open, playing with them.
It's like, oh, I always wanted one of these.
Yeah. And then he shows some of the notes or the cards to Becky. Leave it alone. That's a very private. He's given you. He's put himself in massive
danger. The
danger.
thing to do there was to shut the cupboard as soon as you saw this stuff.
Yeah, and you mean fair enough. Say to Becky, look at those presents in there. Let's just be respectful.
Yeah.
No. Let's see what I've got. Shaking it. Oh, that. Think there's anything? Oh,
maybe Star Wars.
I'm hungry. Think there's anything?
It's definitely not Star Wars in 1958.
No. And after invading their host's privacy, Sam tries once more to get through to Becky.
Listen, you can't go back out with Dylan, you know?
I have to.
Becky, come on. He was gonna rape you.
No, it was my fault. I embarrassed him in front of all his friends. Shane, Dylan needs me.
Yeah, he needs you, all right. He needs to own you.
No, he doesn't. You don't know him the way I do. The war, it did things to him. You know, sometimes in the middle of the night he wakes up crying and lost. And it scares me. And all I can do is just hold him until he feels safe again. Shane, they hurt him.
That doesn't give him the right to hurt you. Don't you see what's happening to you? Your father abused you. And Dylan is abusing you. And if you're not careful, the next guy is going to be some jerk who drinks too much and beats you. And then what are you going to do?
Good night, Shane.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let's chat about this just now. Dylan, for his earlier actions, is rightly portrayed as a villain. But leaving that aside, you could argue, and these days you probably would, these are just young guys who have come back from war themselves.
Yeah.
They're psychologically damaged and probably
PTSD, whatever,
yeah. So their attitudes and their behaviours, it's like understandable.
Yeah, they need looked after. And
yeah.
But I suppose that wasn't available at the time.
No, they're just left to do their own thing. And I suppose you can understand if you came back from the war, you're used to that sort of the gang environment, aren't you? Where everyone looks after each other. And
it would make sense that you would look for that again.
I've read quite a few books on outlaw motorcycle gangs, generally from a perspective of undercover agents. But I've also read one, Sonny, I think he died recently, Sonny Berger. He was the founder of the Hells Angels.
Right.
I've read some on the Mongols as well and things like that. But we've said this before, it's a culture that we don't have in this country.
No.
It looks quite ridiculous.
Well, the motorbike gangs in our country are like 55-year-old guys with long beards and bandanas on riding bikes.
But even if you were younger, there just isn't that. They don't have that authority.
No.
It's like, I think I've discussed this before, if they started cutting about Glasgow on their bikes and tried to act, they would just be punched off and given a severe beating.
They have to wear those massive helmets here as well, which you don't have in America.
Exactly,
it's a bit cooler without a helmet on.
They'd be ridiculed if the bikers come into town. They wouldn't be... anyway.
Becky's a half-wit.
See, I mean, she's only 18, right? I think she's meant to be. And it's a type of... these days she might just be like a goth writing poetry and thinking that no one understands her and she's really intellectual and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, she's just a kid. We all went through that period, I suppose, when we thought we were a bit artistic and we could... Yeah,
I suppose, we're going to change the world. Anyhow, Sam heads downstairs and has a chat with Al.
Yes, where he says that Becky treats On the Road like it is the Bible.
I should point out that Sam has no idea how to connect with Becky. It's like, he's yelling at her, telling her she's abused by everybody.
Where did that come from? Like, did she... I'm not sure that...
I don't remember it being mentioned that her dad... I mean, I suppose she said her mum killed herself when she was 7 and said took the easy way out, so maybe that was to get away from abuse. It's implied.
It's implied, but you can't really...
It's not really stated.
No, you have to be careful with...
And that... it's, even if it were true, it's not the kind of thing you start yelling at someone you've just met.
No, but even then, you can't make that assumption, because even if you say, do you know what, the mother took the easy way out because she was being abused by it, doesn't mean to say that Becky herself was.
Yeah. But like I say, even if she was, you can't just yell that at her to try and persuade her to do what you want.
No.
That's abuse in itself.
No. But I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? This is a man from the 90s, a middle-aged man from the 90s now, and you've got an 18-year-old teenager from the 50s. It would be awkward to try and understand.
Yeah, he certainly isn't getting through to her.
And I think Al has to make this point here.
Yeah. Okay, so he tells Sam it's a great book and it changed his life.
Yeah, he goes on to reel off a number of negative attributes of that period, including it being boring and repressive and materialistic.
Yeah.
And Kerouac, he tells Sam, rebelled against all of this and opened a new world to the youth, which eventually led to rock and roll and free love.
Sam's not surprised that's where Al took it. Al claims he knew Kerouac, or at least met him once.
A tenuous link, I think.
Yeah, he went to a party he was at after a reading one time in the 50s. Al says he was quite sad, but charismatic.
Yeah, once in a generation charisma, I think he describes it as.
Yeah.
Sam then laments that Kerouac is probably the only person who could change Becky's mind, and
Conveniently.
very conveniently, what does Al say?
Oh, he's only 10 miles away in his cabin. I know that because he wrote a letter with today's date on it to Allen Ginsberg.
We next find Sam in the cabin of the severely inebriated Kerouac, and he's trying to persuade him to speak out against On the Road.
Kerouac doesn't like that idea at all. He speaks out for freedom, experience and life.
Yeah, and also it's like, that's his book, his...
Yeah. Tell her that you were joking.
Tell her it's rubbish.
Go and tell her that what she should do is go to school, get a job, and then marry a rich guy.
Obviously, this goes against, and he's also quite pretentious, isn't he? Against his ideals, and he explains this in a verbose manner as we hear some jazz playing in the background. I say, yeah, you have to, I suppose, put it in context, but it's a bit of a pain.
Yeah, a bit of a bore.
Yeah.
He says it's not really his problem, and Sam says he wrote the book, it is his problem.
No, that's not how it works, Sam.
It's a bit of a stretch. Sam says she's just a kid, she's only 18, and she believes every word that he's written. Tell her it's not true. Tell her it's not true, Jack.
But he is not interested in being a hero, and Sam leaves apparently without getting any help from him.
Oh, it takes him all night to do this 10-minute drive.
10-mile drive.
Okay, 10-mile drive, yeah.
But still.
Because by the time he gets back to the diner, it's morning.
Yeah, well, I suppose we only know he arrived. I mean, he might have arrived there at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah, I suppose. And he maybe was there for a lot longer than it seemed.
Yeah. Yeah, anyways, we're back at the diner.
Ernie's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, and Sam, I think, can sense straight away something's not right because he sort of creeps into the establishment.
He's not cautious enough.
No. Who did he find there?
Dylan.
Lighting a cigarette in the corner before walking over to him and remarking that The Great Pretender, which is playing, is Sam's song.
A bit later, everybody else shows up and Ernie's there.
The rest of the gang burst through from the back and they throw Becky and Ernie in front of them.
Dylan asks Ernie why he lied to them, and Sam tells him, I made him do it.
Yeah, I think this is after Sam tries to joke that he'd lost his sense of direction or something, but obviously...
Just before that, so Dylan then says he should be halfway to Mexico by now. And Sam says he got turned around and he lost his sense of direction, but Dylan no longer finds him funny.
No.
Becky asks to leave, but with Dylan, but he says they can't skip coffee now that they're all here and all his friends are here. It's a bit ominous.
Yeah. I think Ernie, he tries to bribe him.
He says just empty the till and go, but Dylan says he's not going to rip this place off, although lying is a pretty bad thing to have done.
And then he does a terrible bully thing.
Starts smashing stuff in front of him.
He pours sugar over his head.
Oh yes, and then he smashes the...
But then he smashes, knocks a few things off the...
Yeah. And when he grabs Becky, Sam tries to step in between them, but it's hauled back by the other motorcycle guys.
Yes, and they consider the option of wasting him. Becky again apologises to Dylan and promises never to do anything like that, in the future, and claims she doesn't know what got into her. Well, he nearly got into her, and that was the problem, I think.
Yeah, but Dylan thinks somebody else got into her.
Yes.
And he makes that point and then smashes some more stuff. He doesn't believe that nothing happened between Becky and Sam.
Yes, that confidence he had that he was no threat to him is waned.
It's evaporated, hasn't it? Yeah.
So outside, we see Mad Dog doing donuts on Ernie's son's bike, which distresses the old man and causes him to run out to try and stop him.
Yes, Mad Dog gets off the bike, knocks Ernie down and then kicks him in the ribs.
That was that's...
He's a wee old man.
Exactly. What? She's not done any harm. Take his bike if you have to, but you don't need to... I could kill him.
Yeah, absolutely could. Sam tells him to pick on someone his own size, so the others let him go, and Dylan's quite excited to see the two of them fight.
However, Mad Dog pulls out his knife, but this is no match for a Chuck Norris roundhouse.
Sam Fu.
Which ends the contest, and Sam helps Ernie from the ground.
Dylan now wants to fight Sam, who he thinks knows a bit of taekwondo.
Becky shouts at Sam not to fight back and humiliates the leader by saying that he can't do anything in bed unless she struggles.
Sam takes this opportunity to kick him, down to the ground.
Well, but this gets Becky a backhand.
Oh yes, from Dylan, which gives Sam the opening to kick Dylan, knock him down, but he fights dirty.
Yes, literally. He blinds Sam with some dirt.
It's a bit like that scene in the Lion King when Scar flicks the ash into Simba's face.
No, it's a bit like the scene in Bloodsport.
Okay, well, everyone's got their own favourites. Al tries to tell Sam what to do while he can't see. So he's going, duck, kick.
But it doesn't really matter because Sam wins quite easily.
Yes, he tosses Dylan on the ground and punches him, and that's the end of Dylan. And
like the cowards that...
yes, they all back off.
Say, no, it's okay. who wants some of this? No, you're all right. So later on, we cut to the gang being taken away by the cops, but Al has some bad news.
Yes, he tells Sam that Mad Dog's in hospital for 3 weeks, but then he hooks up with Dylan again. Yeah,
and obviously Sam's not leapt at this point, so it's not solved the objective.
But Al then knocks this gadget, and it turns out it happens in jail.
Yes.
Sam
is much more interested
in what happens to Becky. But apparently there's no information. She just disappears off the map.
And so he approaches Ernie and subtly gets him to offer Becky a job.
It's a bit like last week where Sam decides, I'm changing stuff.
Yeah.
You know, she's not getting murdered, but that's not good enough for me.
Settling down to a life in a desert cafe in a room above the... It's not exactly...
Yeah. Al doesn't say that she's unhappy in her disappearance.
Exactly.
Anyhow, yes, as you say, he persuades Ernie to offer Becky a job, but she's not interested. She says if she wants to be a writer, she has to stay on the road. But Sam says that doesn't need to be literal. Maybe the road is the friends we make along the way.
Yeah, and the journey of life could be started here in the diner. That's not... Sorry, but...
You just stay here. Don't go on the road. And we'll call it being on the road.
Obviously, she doesn't accept this. And neither does the person who enters with great timing.
No, I've got to see. I've got to do.
I've got to move. I've got to groove. Away from the rumbling hooves of suffocating mediocrity. That's what you were thinking, wasn't it?
Oh my God. You're Jack Kerouac.
It's Jack Kerouac.
I was talking to a friend the other day about this very subject. He was illuminating like a thunderstorm at midnight. And when I overheard your dilemma on my quest for a cup of coffee, I couldn't help but be reminded of it and other things. On the wheel of life, we all go around. We are many people at many times. We all go through phases of motion, of ocean, of the notion of living on the edge of life or of a continent. But the road is not made of asphalt, but of the people we meet. And each of us is on a different journey. And that's okay. So sometimes it's okay to get off the road we ride on wheels and just stay. Something will come of it. Because that's a world worth writing about too.
He doesn't have talk a power of shite.
Yeah, I was going to ask at the end, do you think he believes what he's saying here?
He's a drunk.
He doesn't even know what he's saying here.
No.
What did he tell me to say against the road? Oh, for the road?
This
is the road. The road is made
less travelled of
the people we trample upon.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Are you pissed?
Probably. He's just about finished drinking himself to death at this point.
Exactly.
Anyway, he leaves. Becky takes the job. She's really excited now because Jack said it was cool. And Al says this has changed everything.
What's it changed?
Ernie now survives his son's remains coming back because obviously he shacks up with Becky.
He's still alive in the 90s apparently.
Yes. And Becky makes it as a novelist and she ends up in a nice house with an ocean view. So Sam gives her a platonic hug and leaps back into a previous episode.
Yeah, so we don't have to mention that.
No. That's the end. What I want to know is what did Mad Dog and Dylan go to jail for?
Rape. Or attempted rape, sorry.
Mad Dog didn't rape anybody.
Well, they broke in that place, didn't they? It was only a few weeks, so the equivalent of breach of the peace.
You don't think he was in jail for long?
I think it said 3 weeks.
No, he was in hospital for 3 weeks and then he met up with Dylan in jail after that.
Right.
I think it's implied that they're in prison for a while, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think you can assume that, you know, this is how they act. They've done lots of things like this, robbing places and just causing trouble.
There's certainly some shades of Kamikaze Kid from season 1. One of the writers is the same, which probably explains it. With the gang and the sister and the whatever else, you know, the girl who's involved with the wrong guy. And yeah. In fact, the plot is very similar if you take away the trappings. Yes. Now that I think about it, it's exactly the same.
It was alright.
Yeah, it was fine. This episode was fine. Anything else to say about it?
Nah.
You don't get any sort of Jack Kerouac inspired lines for us?
No.
Okay, let's get into the trivia. Then it was originally aired after a week's break, presumably a rerun at that point, on the 30th of November 1990, directed by James Whitmore Jr. again, who did the previous one. And if you want to hear more about him, go back to the podcast for Jimmy. This was the 4th of his 15 episodes. So the writers were Randy Holland, this is the second of his 2. The other one was Pool Hall Blues, which also had Ernie in it. And Paul Brown, 7th of 13 for Brown, and his first one was Kamikaze Kid. Becky was played by Josie Bissett. This is her only Quantum Leap. She's best known for almost 200 episodes of Melrose Place. She's also in Law & Order SVU, Secret Life of the American Teenager, and the Wedding March series of TV movies. She's now 52, still acting. Dylan was played by Diedrich Bader.
He's quite a well-known face.
Yeah. He's been in Star Trek The Next Generation, Cheers, Frasier, Veep. He's a very prolific voice actor. Still active. In fact, he's in the cinemas right now. He's in the Shazam sequel. He's 56 years old. Ernie was played, as we say, by Teddy Wilson. His second of 2 Quantum Leaps. We saw him in Pool Hall Blues as Grady. And you can hear more about him on that podcast. He sadly died just a few weeks after this episode.
That's unfortunate.
Jack Kerouac was played by Michael Brian French. This is his only Quantum Leap, but he's been in things like X-Files, ER, The West Wing, Breaking Bad, Orange is the New Black. He's still active. Mad Dog, played by Mark Boone Jr., his only Quantum Leap, but he was also in Memento, Batman Begins, The Mandalorian, Die Hard 2. He's still active at 68.
Yeah, I think he was also in, what's the biker TV show?
Yes, Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he was.
And I think he is a big fan of the motorbikes as well in real life.
Makes sense. Sam's reflection in this one, Shane Funnybone Thomas, was played by Christopher Logan, his only Quantum Leap, but he was also in Star Trek Generations, the movie, Babylon 5, the SpongeBob movie, amongst other things. He's also active still at 62. Title of the movie obviously comes from Rebel Without a Cause from 1955 with James Dean. Mm-hmm. There's a poster on the wall of the diner that advertises a fight, and one of the contestants is Mad Dog Boone. And in this episode, Mark Boone plays Mad Dog, so maybe a nod to him. There, near the start, Sam speaks to Al at the side of the road. You see Al's clothes blowing in the wind. That's a little bit odd. Let's just move on, not mention that. In terms of things that we learned, Al's first car was a bike. He met Jack Kerouac when he was a cadet at the Naval Academy, and that's just across the street from St John's College, apparently. Any others?
Nope.
In respect of on this date, we've got the first Cod War broke out between the UK and Iceland over fishing rights.
Oh, that's what I had.
It's the 3rd day of the Notting Hill race riots in London.
Right.
Which ostensibly began over objections to an interracial relationship. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And the next day, on the 2nd of September 58, China began or extended their television broadcast, which up until then had only been experimental, to a regular 3 hours per night, and it stayed that way for 20 years.
Oof.
Michael Jackson and Lenny Henry were also born in the week running up to this.
Okay. The Cod War sounds quite gentle, but actually it involved like
warships and stuff.
Warships pointing guns at
the cod. Pick a side, Coddy.
Number ones.
Yes, I know.
In the UK, I've not heard of this one. We had the Callan twins with When.
Okay.
Maybe if we listened to it, we would recognise it. But in the States, one that I don't want to hear again.
Okay.
We had Domenico Modugno, I think it is, with Volare.
Volare. Yeah, let's move on.
Well, which is obviously a connection to
this, yes, and to, well, Sam sang it back in season 1 in the Gangsters Wedding episode, and also Dean Stockwell was involved with it on Columbo.
He was, yeah. I think it was about a 9-minute rendition, which is...
Oh, that was a bit of padding, wasn't it? Epic. Next week, we've got A Little Miracle, a much maligned episode where Sam has to help someone see the error of their ways. So we will see you in 1962.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.